At Eastern Bank, we believe that growing business should also grow the community. That's why we work to give all business owners what they need to take their dreams to the next level. Our dedication to small businesses and communities has inspired us to create the Equity Alliance for Business program and become the #1 SBA lender in Massachusetts for 15 years running. We're proud to be here for all businesses, big and small. See the good we can do for you by visiting easternbank.com/business.
This is what it sounds like.
Member FDIC.
How does an actress find the perfect accent for her character? How do members of an indie rock band figure out their harmonies? How does a crossword puzzle creator come up with clues? You'll find the answers to these questions and many more on Working, the podcast about how creative professionals get stuff done. Join me, June Thomas, and my co-hosts Isaac Butler and Ronald Young Jr. as we learn how writers outline novels, how composers get jobs and get paid, and how YouTube creators learn how to look into the camera lens. Listen to Working from Slate every Sunday, wherever you listen.
Welcome to Say More from Boston Globe Opinion. Filling in for Shirley Leung this week, I'm Brian Bergstein, editor of the Globe's Ideas section. I'm back for another episode devoted to artificial intelligence. In these episodes, I try to get past the hype and better understand what AI will and won't do in our lives. My guest this week says AI will soon exist far beyond our computer screens. AI robots are coming, she says, and they'll do our chores. Daniela Roos heads the Computer Science and AI Lab at MIT. She's a roboticist and former MacArthur Genius Grant recipient. She released a book this year called The Heart and the Chip, Our Bright Future with Robots. It makes the case that robots will be as much a part of our daily lives as smartphones are today. Daniela Roos, thank you for joining me on Say More.
Thank you so much for having me.
So, in your book, you and your co-author, Gregory Mohn, describe a future where we'll have not just self-driving cars, but garbage cans that take themselves out, drones that deliver our groceries, furniture that rearranges itself. I was curious when you think we'll be living in this world.
Well, Brian, we are making significant strides towards this kind of robot and AI-enhanced future. But there is so much more that we still need to do in order to get robots to fully deliver on their potential. Machines can really be our partners. Think of machines as smart tools that are created by the people for the people to support us, to take on some of the aspects of our work that we do not enjoy doing. Already, we have extraordinary benefits from machines. We have robots on Mars that are telling us about the secret history of this planet. Robots have also enabled us to probe the mysteries of the dark ocean. Intelligent machines are already vacuuming your floor, mowing our lawns. Some of them are even milking the cows. And in the future, I imagine so many more things that these machines will do for us. But I think we need to expand our view of what a robot is. I think we can turn almost anything into a robot.
So I'm really curious why you called the book The Heart and the Chip. What's embodied in that title? What's the vision that you're expressing there?
The heart and the chip stands for a vision where robots and humans are not competitors. Rather, they are partners. The chip stands for the extraordinary power of computation that machines have. Machines can compute so much more than us, so much faster, so much better. Machines can lift heavier things than us. Machines can move with greater precision. So there is so much that the machine can do. Machines have speed, but humans have vision. And humans have wisdom. So on the other hand, the heart stands for the human side, the wisdom, the vision, the critical thinking, all the ways in which humans reason that machines are not able to. And so the idea is that when you put the heart and the chip together, in other words, when we give people these great new tools, we achieve so much more than what we can do as people alone, the heart alone, or as machines alone, the chip alone.
So your vision of robots not being these sort of separate entities that are in somehow competition with us is really interesting to me. This idea that robotics would be sort of embedded into our life sounds like it's at the core of what you're describing. And in the book you talk about, and this came up in a Globe Ideas Q&A you did with Evan Selinger too, this idea of robotics being so sort of embedded in our lives that they give us superpowers. So can you talk about what kind of superpowers you think we would have? So I would maybe use a robot not just to do some task for me, but it would enhance a task I'm doing. Is that one way of thinking about what you'd like to see?
Exactly. So with robots, we can extend our reach. We can send drones to far away places, and that's kind of like taking our field of view and extending it beyond what is possible with a naked eye. In some sense, that is a superpower, because now we can see beyond what our human body allows us to see. With robots, we can also see things that are way smaller than what we can see with a naked eye. And by the way, we've used this idea to create self-driving cars that look at tiny changes in the shadows at corners, the kind of changes that are impossible to see with a naked eye, and yet that can be done with computer vision. And that allows us to see what's happening around the corner. So we can get X-ray vision with machines. We can also improve our strength by using exoskeletons. We can run faster, we can lift heavier things, we can even learn how to hit a tennis ball like Serena Williams, or a resident can learn from an experienced surgeon how to do a procedure better. We can get greater precision because robotic mechanisms can help our hands move with much greater precision. We can even overcome gravity and lift up, like one of my favorite superheroes, Iron Man. A lot of the ideas that we have in Harry Potter, for instance, a lot of what we associate with magic can actually be realized with new materials, with new algorithms, and with robotic devices. And I think that this is a very positive thing for humanity, for people, because it gives us hope. It gives us something to dream about. It actually even begins to turn some of those fantastic childhood imaginations into possibility. And the world needs hope right now.
Well, speaking of childhood visions, when I think about robots doing things at our home, I think of the Jetsons. I think a lot of people think of that. And then I heard you say at some point that when you were growing up in Cold War Romania, behind the Iron Curtain, you got very little Western TV, but one of the shows was Lost in Space, where there was a robot. Was that part of what actually drove your initial interest in robotics?
Brian, yes. When I was a child, I did not have too much access to science fiction, but Lost in Space was a series about a helpful robot that became the family friend and that protected people. And that was just such a compelling vision for me. The other thing I had when I was a child growing up was the book series by Jules Verne. 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, Around the World in 80 Days. And these are fantasies that back in the day really encouraged my imagination, encouraged me to think about, what if I could go down 20,000 leagues under the sea? What if I could go around the world in a balloon? And today we can actually do it. It's absolutely extraordinary.
But what do you think are some of the biggest technical hurdles that still need to be overcome for this vision that you've been describing so beautifully to come to fruition?
Well, so contrary to popular belief, robots are not all powerful, and we have a lot of challenges that we still need to take care of. And the challenges are technical, hardware challenges as well as software challenges. And then we also have societal and integration challenges. So let me say a few words about the technical challenges. A robot is a machine that can take input from the world with sensors, think about that input, and then effect an action into the physical world. The robot needs a body, and the body is important because the machine can only do what the body is capable of doing. And so if you have a robot on wheels, that robot is not going to climb the stairs. Now, the robot, even if it has a very capable body, it will not do anything for you if it doesn't have a good brain. And the good brain consists of the algorithms, the software, all the solutions that we need to come up with in order to get that machine to think and to act in the world. And so over the last couple of decades, we made huge progress in software for navigation, how the machine decides which path to follow from point A to point B. So all of this is really extraordinary. But this doesn't mean we fully solved the problem, because the sensors don't actually work when it rains or it snows. And so it will be a while until we get a machine to drive from Harvard Square to Times Square. But in the meantime, we can have machines that can drive in simpler environments, in the desert, in small towns, on highways that are not too crowded and where the weather is nice. So you see, there's still a lot of work to be done on the technical side, despite the fact that we are at a point in time where we can begin to deploy some solutions.
So I think there might be some misconception. You mentioned the brains of the machine being as important as the physical makeup of the body of the machine. There's been so much attention on large language models like ChatGPT and Google's Gemini and so on. But you can't just use that as the brain of a robot out in the world, right? I mean, do you think that all the attention on large language models and chatbots is maybe overshadowing robotics or making it less clear kind of where we stand in terms of machine intelligence?
Language is definitely increasing what we can do with machines, but language is not enough. And I can give you some examples. We've been working on self-driving cars for quite a few years, and it's a very exciting area because the problem is not solved. Our idea for a car is to develop a machine that will never be responsible for a collision and become the driver's friend. And we have a way to go to get to this vision. If you've been around in the 80s, there was a show called Knight Rider, where we had such a fictional view of this, Kit.
It drove itself and it talked, and it sort of was a combined AI and self-driving car, right?
Exactly, and it was the friend of the driver. And so that's a very compelling vision that fits with the heart and the chip. But how to get there? Well, language is getting us a few steps closer to this vision of Kit.
More of my conversation with Daniela Roos after this short break.
At Eastern Bank, we believe in good business. That's why we provide clients with a suite of products and services made to take their businesses to the next level. From express business loans to seamless cash management solutions, we make it easy to grow when the time is right. As a trusted full-service bank and the #1 SBA lender in Massachusetts for 15 years running, we understand what you need to keep your business thriving. See the good we can do for you by visiting easternbank.com/business.
This is what it sounds like.
Member FDIC.
Sometimes things in the world of technology are complicated and need careful explaining. Sometimes they just need a little hard truth.
I don't think anyone is going to buy a banana with crypto at any point in the foreseeable future.
I'm Lizzie O'Leary, the host of Slate's What Next TBD, your clear-eyed guide to technology, power, and the future. Friday and Sunday, wherever you get your podcasts.
You could imagine a lot of listeners maybe being confused about the state of robotics because maybe they've seen these videos from Boston Dynamics of these agile running robots, the robot dogs, these videos that are sort of amazing and disturbing all at the same time. There's been the Roomba robotic vacuum cleaner for 20 years. There's robots doing incredible things on Mars. And of course, there's been drones and self-driving cars. But yet, it seems like to get to this next threshold of what you really envision, there's going to have to be this really fundamental change in the machine's ability to handle complex situations. It's amazing to me to think that we can drive a robot around on Mars, but you couldn't get a robot to really do anything in my house, going up and down the stairs or unloading the dishwasher. Turns out to be a harder problem than getting a robot to work on Mars.
In robotics, we often talk about Moravec's paradox, which says that what's easy for humans is hard for robots, and what's easy for robots is hard for humans. It's much easier to send a robot in space than to get the robot to clear your table after dinner. And this is because the dexterity and the interaction between machine and the world remains a big challenge for machines. It remains a challenge from the point of view of hardware. We don't have quite the compliant and strong robotic manipulators that we need and that are safe to be around. We don't have skin. We don't have tactile sensors that give us the kind of density that we have in the human hand. And we don't have the right algorithms. And what I can tell you is that these are extraordinarily exciting problems that the robotics community is working on. And we're making progress. But that's why, in some sense, we see more progress and more products that are about movement rather than products that are about manipulation. So we have vacuum cleaners. We have robots that mow your lawn. We have self-driving cars in simple environments. We have robots that deliver goods at home. We have robots that deliver in hospitals. We can deploy self-driving, navigating machines in simple environments, in closed environments. But we don't have the same level of flexibility with robotic manipulators and with robotic arms. We have extraordinary robots on the factory floor. But these robots execute pre-programmed tasks. If something changes in the environment of the robot, the whole process gets blocked. We're beginning to see extraordinary progress, though, in robots that can help in warehouses and with logistics. And this is very important because we depend so much on logistics for everything we build and everything we need in our daily lives. And so to me, the next big wave of products is happening in the logistics industry and in the warehousing industry.
So if we could get to the future where we have robotics much more embedded in our lives, assisting us in a lot of ways, giving us the sort of superpowers you envision, that's a very compelling vision, I think. The flip side of that, I wonder, though, is could it make our lives in a way more complex? There would just be more things in the house that could break. You know, do I want to have to reboot my trash can or do two-factor authentication to get into my fridge, that kind of thing? Like, you know, is it possible like our lives will become overly complex?
This complexity is a potential future that I am actually worried about. So when I think about different ways in which technology can evolve, there is a path where we can continue to build increasingly bigger and more complex machines that we do not understand. And these machines might work or might not be the right solution. If the machines are not the right solutions for us, we're going to generate a lot of junkyards of discarded technologies. I'm concerned about that. If the machines work and at some point in time they break, then the question is, who is going to fix them if we don't understand how they work? So what I believe in is technology that we develop and we understand. Because this way, we have the heart and the chip working together. And when something goes wrong, we know what to do. We know how to fix the problem. Now, how does that translate into your everyday life? Well, if the mechanism you're building is well understood, then it's no different than having a car that is a complex mechanism that you actually don't need to understand. But we have specialists who can fix the car. If the car is broken, you take it to the garage and somebody knows what to do with it. If the technology is well tested, it's solid, it gets deployed, it's well understood, we understand the scope of its function, we understand when it might break, then I imagine we will really benefit from having these machines with us, from having these machines take on some of the routine and more drudgery part of our lives.
And if we can get machines that can do that well for us at home, I have to imagine they'll get even more adept in factories. How much do you think, how many blue-collar jobs are really at risk ultimately from advances in robotics?
I know that people are worried about jobs disappearing. And what I want to say is that robots are not all capable. They're really not able to do everything. But if you have a machine that can save time for the expert, then that expert will have time to apply more expertise to do their job for a longer part of their day. Let me give you an example. I've been talking a lot to people who work in rehabilitation. And right now, a typical rehabilitation cycle includes the therapist going to the patient's hospital room, picking up the patient, pushing the patient in a wheelchair to the gym, spending some time in the gym, and then taking that patient right back to the room. So only about a third of that time is spent applying expertise. Now, if we could have self-driving wheelchairs that bring the patient to the therapist at the gym, then the therapist spends more time focusing on their expertise, and the patient benefits because the patient gets to spend more time working on the things that the patient needs to work on. And so this is the idea of kind of working together, finding ways for people and machines to work together.
But there's been so much talk over the last decade or two about teaching everybody to code, teaching kids to code. And it may be that coding in isolation is what AI actually takes up. And maybe there needs to be much more emphasis on actually robotics, which encompasses so much more, including the design of the machines, the interaction of the AI with the physical body of the machine. When I hear your vision, teaching kids to code sounds very limited and kind of passé.
Well, it's one aspect. The way I see it, those of us who know how to make things and bring them to life through programming, through AI, we have superpowers. Because we can make real the things we imagine. And who wouldn't want to do that?
So we've been talking a lot about the ideas in your book, The Heart and the Chip. But you told me that you have another book coming out this year. And I want to understand what's that about? What are the other big ideas in AI that you're hoping people will better understand?
So the Mind's Mirror aims to explain how AI works, what kinds of superpowers we can get with AI, and what could go wrong.
What do you think is the biggest misconception about AI right now?
The biggest misconception about AI is that it's all powerful. AI is not going to solve all of our problems. AI is not going to take down the world. But AI can be an extraordinarily useful tool for people. And so I like to think of AI as a kind of an intern that runs around on your behalf, pores over data, finds interesting patterns and suggestions that save you time. So AI can bring you ideas that you, the human, can look at and decide.
Earlier, you mentioned Tony Stark and the whole Iron Man idea. And just talk a little bit more about what that story has taught you, why you're drawn to that character. Because what's interesting about the Iron Man suit is that, it's capable of great things or being used for terrible things. Is that the contradiction that interests you, or what is it about Tony Stark?
First of all, Tony Stark is an MIT alum. And that
right.
in itself is an important part of the character. But Tony Stark is a brilliant engineer. He creates these extraordinary technologies that are so powerful and that are so empowering of people. At the same time, he realizes that the same technologies can be used by supervillains. And then he decides to do something about it. And so I see Tony Stark as a brilliant engineer who develops technology. And when he realizes that there are darker aspects of technology, he stops and figures out how to address those challenges. And moving forward, I think it's really important for all of us to consider the positive side, but also the potential dark side of technology. At MIT, when we start a new large project, we often have a meeting about what could go wrong right at the beginning of the project, where we invite people with all types of backgrounds. We invite the community, we invite writers, we invite philosophers, we invite engineers, we invite scientists to imagine what are all the different ways in which the vision of what we're trying to achieve could go wrong. And if we know that from the beginning, then we can develop solutions that have guardrails against those potential negative uses.
Yeah, I like that as a reminder of how everybody can kind of play a part in developing this future.
Exactly. And it's important. To have everyone. It's important to have the science fiction writers who have great imagination. It's important to have philosophers who bring the ethical questions. It's important to have the engineers who are really doing it and really imagining the technical solutions.
Daniela Roos is director of the MIT Computer Science and Artificial Intelligence Laboratory. Her latest book is called The Heart and the Chip. Thank you for joining me on Say More.
Thank you so much, Brian.
Say More is a production of the Boston Globe. Today's episode was produced by Anna Kusmer with help from Scott Hellman. Our editor is Jim Dow. Our engineer is Uzair Amit. Our music is from APM Music. If you like the show, please follow us and leave us a review on Apple, on Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. You can email us at saymore@globe.com. I'm Brian Bergstein. Thanks for listening.
Life doesn't come with an instruction manual, but the Life Kit podcast gets you pretty close. Whether we're helping you tackle life-altering questions or just your everyday pickles, we've got deeply human solutions to your deeply human problems. Listen now to the Life Kit podcast from NPR.
In a divided world, the one thing everyone seems to agree on is that the media is some kind of conspiracy.
And here's the thing. Media is a conspiracy, just not the one everyone thinks it is.
I'm Naima Raza.
I'm Ben Smith.
And this is Mixed Signals from Semaphore Media. Every Friday between now and November, we're going to pull back the curtain on the stories everyone is talking about.
Exploring how money, politics, culture, and access shape everything you read, watch, and listen to.
Mixed Signals, a look inside modern media from people inside the machine.
Listen on Spotify. Listen on Spotify. Listen on Spotify. Listen on Spotify.